My name is David. I live with my family in a small town in Mexico. I had a love marriage with Maria, my wife. My parents were not in favor of this marriage. So, after our wedding, I decided to live separately. However, a few years later, my parents changed their opinion about Maria after seeing her wisdom and her skills in managing the household. Eventually, they accepted her as a part of the family. Today, we all live happily as a family. Although I cannot stay with them because my office is 2 hours away from their home, we make sure to visit them every Saturday. My family includes my 10-year-old son Peter, 5-year-old daughter Sophia, and 5-month-old baby Oliver. One day, I received a call from my father informing me that my grandmother's health had deteriorated suddenly, and her last wish was for all of us to be with her in her final moments. She also wanted to see my youngest son, Oliver. My grandmother lived in a beautiful bungalow a little outside the city. The bungalow wasn't luxurious but was charming because it was surrounded by a lake on 3 sides. The serene lake brought peace to anyone who looked at it. My father couldn't live with her because he ran a shop in the city. Despite his efforts to bring her to live with him, she was adamant about staying in her home, where her heart belonged. To fulfill her wish, we decided to move in with her temporarily. My father left the shop in the hands of his staff, and I took a month's leave from my office. When we arrived, my grandmother was overjoyed to see us. She couldn't believe we had come at her request. My children were meeting her for the first time. She showered them with love and brought lots of sweets and chocolates for them. Since the house was small, we had to adjust in whatever way we could. Grandmother had already made arrangements for everyone. She strictly warned the children not to go near the lake without their parents. The first 2 or 3 days passed peacefully, and the children were enjoying their time in the bungalow. However, they felt a little scared at night since they had to sleep in the hall. My grandmother's health was worsening by the day, and we all prayed for her to leave this world peacefully and for us to fulfill her last wishes during her lifetime. One night, Sophia woke up to go to the bathroom and called out to her mother, as she was scared to go alone. Our room was upstairs, so we didn't hear her. After calling 2 or 3 times with no response, Sophia shouted loudly. She then saw a woman in a white gown with a white veil covering her face. The woman had long, thick black hair. Sophia couldn't see her face clearly, but she instinctively felt this wasn't her mother. The woman stood near the door and started sobbing. Sophia was terrified and approached her cautiously. When Sophia got closer, the woman removed the veil from her face with her hands. As soon as Sophia saw her face, she was horrified and fell to the floor. She scrambled back to her bed, covered herself with a blanket, and screamed loudly. Hearing her screams, we all woke up. Maria and I ran downstairs and found Sophia trembling under the blanket. After much coaxing, she came out and clung to her mother, crying uncontrollably. When she calmed down, she told us everything. We assumed she had a bad dream and tried to comfort her. However, after that night, Sophia refused to sleep in the hall and started sleeping with us in the small room. Now Peter was left to sleep alone in the hall. Although he might have been scared, he acted brave on the outside. He kept the lights and television on while sleeping. Peace returned to the house, and a sense of calm prevailed. A few days later, my grandmother passed away peacefully. As we prepared to leave, my father suggested selling the house, but my mother refused, saying it should remain closed to prevent harm to others. We returned home, and though Peter and Sophia were initially shaken, time healed their fears, and life returned to normal. It must have been around 2:30 at night. After finishing my night shift, I was walking back home from the office on foot. With no vehicle, the desolate, deserted, and long roads of the metropolis have been my companions for the past year and a half. Goodness! Such long and eerie roads. They seem never-ending. They just go on, refusing to stop. At times, the darkness is so dense that you can't see where you're stepping, while at other times, the beauty of the roads bathed in the shimmering white light from the street lamps is mesmerizing. Walking these dark, deserted roads daily has taken away the fear they once held. These same paths, bustling with heavy traffic and activity during the day, make it nearly impossible to walk a step. The merciless heat of May, sweat dripping from my forehead, and then suddenly, a cool breeze begins to blow. The cold air hitting the sweat on my forehead provides a soothing relief. In such a moment, who wouldn't feel like humming a tune? I was moving forward, humming softly, when suddenly my eyes froze on a spot. A respectable-looking middle-aged woman was standing by the roadside. She was about 100 to 120 feet away. She had a small bag slung over her shoulder, and a briefcase was placed on the ground beside her. The way she had neatly covered her head with a white printed sari suggested she was a housewife from a decent family. But at such a late hour, on a highway running through the city, it felt odd. Maybe her family had put her on a bus, and she had to get off here late at night for some reason. Perhaps her home was nearby. Or maybe she was waiting for a ride, an auto or a rickshaw. But at this hour, where would she find one? Perhaps a family member was coming to pick her up in a car. Perhaps. Lost in these thoughts, I got closer to her. Our eyes met, but she didn't flinch at all. She kept looking directly at me. There was no sign of fear, which was surprising, especially for a woman alone on such a dark and deserted night. At least upon seeing someone like me, who could easily be mistaken for a rowdy fellow, she should have shown some fear. But she kept staring steadily, her face devoid of any expression, no emotion, no fear. Though a smile lingered on her lips. Was the one who felt embarrassed. I had to avert my gaze. Could she be someone unusual? I quickly dismissed the thought. Whoever she was, it wasn't my concern. I quickened my pace and passed her. Overwhelmed by an unknown fear and a sense of shame, I didn't look back. Who knows what she might have thought? Walking on, I reached another road. By then, the woman and the road she was on had completely disappeared from sight. Could she have been some ghost? The path that had seemed pleasant moments ago now began to feel eerie. I wanted to reach home as quickly as possible. My pace quickened, and I started taking large strides. I had barely walked 3/4 of a kilometer when suddenly a scream escaped my mouth. The same woman appeared about 100 yards ahead, standing by the roadside in the exact same posture. Bag on her shoulder, briefcase on the ground. How did she get here? There was only one road. No vehicle passed, nor did she walk or run past me. My entire body was drenched in sweat out of fear. It felt like this night would be my last. That ghostly woman would devour me in no time. I ran frantically. So fast that I didn't even realize when she was left behind. I kept running, and only stopped when I reached home. I stood outside for a moment to catch my breath. The next evening, around 5 o'clock, I reached the office and recounted the entire incident to an elderly colleague. Laughing, he said, "Oh, you must be talking about the area near the slaughterhouse, right?" Slaughterhouse? I muttered. Yes, the slaughterhouse. The one where animals are butchered. That road is dangerous. Many accidents happen there. High-speed vehicles have crushed many people. I've heard a woman waiting for a bus there years ago was also run over by a truck. You're not the first, many have seen her. But son, she seems to be a kind spirit. She has never harmed anyone. I was shocked and disturbed. How would I walk that road again at night? And now, I had come face to face with a spirit, a woman's ghost. And thankfully, it was a kind one.
Shankar had changed a lot since coming to the city. A simple and innocent young man from a small village, he was the firstborn of the respected. Eager to meet her, Shanky went to the park early the next morning. When he saw her, she was even more beautiful than her photo. He lingered around her but was frustrated when she didn't even glance at him. This was a first for Shanky. He was used to girls falling for him, and her indifference wounded his ego deeply. Shanky became irritable and easily angered. No matter how hard he tried to forget Pia, she consumed his thoughts. One evening, as twilight set in and he was wandering the park, a melodious voice stopped him in his tracks from behind. "Hello, Shanky," the voice called sweetly. As he turned to look, the voice stopped him. "Don't turn around. Never look back." Shanky was startled. "Pia, is that you?" he asked. The voice laughed softly. "Wow, impressive guess. But remember, never turn around to look at me." "Then why don't you walk beside me?" Shanky pleaded. "No, that's not possible," the voice replied. "Why not?" Shanky asked hesitantly. "I don't like talkative people," the voice said as it began to fade. Suddenly, Shanky felt a strong grip on his neck, as if powerful hands were holding him. "Let me go," he pleaded. The grip loosened, and Shanky, terrified, hurried back to his room without looking back. That day shook Shanky to his core. For days, he avoided the park. But curiosity ate away at him. Was it Pia, or someone else? Summoning his courage, he returned to the park one day. Pia wasn't there, and he felt both relieved and disappointed. As he mulled over his thoughts, the familiar voice called from behind, "Back after so many days? Are you feeling better now?" "Good, you've learned not to look back," the voice teased. "I was unwell," Shanky stammered. "Don't be scared. I'm not that bad. Today, I'll show you my face," the voice said. "Walk straight ahead. I'll tell you when to stop." Shanky obeyed, walking mechanically. Soon, they reached a lake. As he stared at the water, an image emerged, a beautiful girl resembling Pia. He gazed intently, but when his eyes drifted to her feet, he felt faint. Her feet were inverted. Could this be a witch, he thought, trembling like a leaf. "What are you thinking, Shanky?" she asked with a laugh. "Nothing." He stuttered. "Shall we head back now? So soon? Don't you like my face?" she teased. No, it's not that." Shanky stammered, as she laughed loudly. Shanky was now completely ensnared. He didn't know how to escape. He became unwell, constantly fearful, and his friends grew worried about his strange behavior. One night, while Shanky was muttering in his sleep, a close friend overheard him begging Pia to let him go. The friend immediately called Shanky's father, informing him that Shanky seemed entangled with a supernatural entity. The following week, Shanky's father arrived unexpectedly, much to his surprise. Shanky broke down, clinging to him. "Father, save me. I promise I'll never do anything wrong again," he wept. His father listened to the whole story and devised a plan with some friends. The next morning, Shanky returned to the park as instructed. Soon, the voice spoke to him again, guiding him to walk straight. He followed her directions silently, arriving at a desolate ruin. The eerie wind and rustling leaves made the place even more frightening. Bats flew past his ears like arrows, and he shivered with fear. The girl led him to the ruin and was about to seize him when Shanky quickly turned around. She growled, "How dare you turn back? I'll drain your blood." But before she could act, Shanky's father and several policemen surrounded her. Unprepared for the ambush, she was captured. Under interrogation, the witch revealed her tragic story. Her father was a poor cart vendor who was beaten to death by influential men who stole his livelihood. With no way to survive, she had turned to crime, creating a persona as a supernatural entity to rob people. She also confessed to being involved in organ trafficking, exposing several respected individuals. Shanky, shaken to the core, resolved to focus on his studies and leave his mischief behind. "I came to the city to study," he said. "No more playing the hero."